Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. So today I'm going to be looking at the relationship of Tanya and Syngin from 90 Day Fiance Happy Ever After. So for this review I'm going to do something a little bit different. As you know, this week Sinjin told Tanya he's not sure about the relationship and he thinks he might want to end things and go back to South Africa. And of course supercilious Tanya is as shocked as can be. We're not. So at the end of my review, I'm going to be discussing why he wants to go home and what's happened over the whole 2-year relationship, which means that Tanya shouldn't be at all surprised. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed to my channel. If you haven't done so as yet, please just click that red button and subscribe for regular videos. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Ebird99. So without further ado, let's talk Tanya and Syngin. So as we all know, the Ebird is none too fond of Tanya. I consider she's got a maddening sense of her own importance, and her personality is a mixture of intellectual disability combined with arrogance. It's a heady mix. Now I'm not saying I hate Tanya, but I'd probably unplug her life support to charge my phone. And I do obviously recognise that Syngin does have his drawbacks and Syngin does have things that he needs to work on. It's virtually impossible when you consider that everything he does and everything he says is consistently picked over by Tanya. Tanya frequently makes impulsive, hasty and dreadful decisions. And then when her life is a mess as a result of these decisions, she considers it's somebody else's fault. She's now telling us that she knew Sinjin had a drinking problem, but she thought he'd just address it. If he does have a drinking problem, that's an actual illness. It cannot just be easily and quickly addressed. So in the latest episode, Sinjin told producers that he's really stressed at the moment because Tanya's broken a bone in her foot. This has seemingly rendered her unable to use the whole of her body or her mind to make money or get some sort of job. And as we know, Sinjin's only just got his green card, so he's yet to get a job. Yes guys, that's right, he didn't get hired by that Irish pub that he went to last week. It's a shocker. Maybe it's because he's African American, who knows? But Tanya and Syngin need to talk, and where better but to go to a restaurant. That's what we all do when we've got no money. We go and buy food at 5 times the price of cooking at home. So Tanya starts things off by telling Syngin that she thinks his drinking is more than she's comfortable with. And as usual, Syngin apologises and says I'll try and work on it. But Sinjin's got far bigger problems. He says we've never really sat down since the wedding and talked about what we're doing and where we're going. I think we might have very different ideas. I came to America for you. This was your idea. And Sinjin tells production he doesn't want to be a millionaire. He just wants to have enough money to buy a property and just chill out. And he continues to Tanya, he doesn't trust staying in America. He doesn't want to raise children in America. And he doesn't feel it's going to work out for them as a couple in the States. And Tanya looks absolutely shell-shocked. I can't believe she didn't see it coming. Sinjin's been miserable since the moment he arrived. And Tanya said, well, what are you doing here with me then? I'm really confused. And then she said to Sinjin, when we were back in South Africa, I was sitting there considering our future and it seems that you weren't. And Sinjin said, oh my God, what's absolutely crazy to me is that you don't even recognise me as your soulmate. So guys, remember last season when they had Mystic Martha, whatever her name was, looking at their astrology chart? Tanya told Sinjin that some other dude she used to go out with before was her actual soulmate and not him. And Sinjin's giving Tanya an awful look, the kind of look that says, if I promise to miss you, will you piss off? And Tanya said, why do you keep bringing the soulmate issue up? And Sinjin said, don't you think when you said that, it messed with my mind? Do you not think? And she said, well, we haven't even talked about it since. It's been fine. Why are you being so aggressive? Say sorry. And guys, I really dislike this about Tanya. She considers that she's been slighted in some way and she says, oh Sinjin, say sorry, apologise to me. And she virtually forces him to say sorry without even trying to look at where he's coming from. And so Sinjin says, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, maybe it came out wrong, I don't know, but I suppose I'm sorry. Which is a 30-year-old's equivalent of soza or soz, i.e. I'm not quite sorry enough to say the full word. And Sinjin said, well, I don't know what the future holds, but I haven't really committed to this relationship. And Tanya says to production, it's really confusing to hear someone say that they don't know what their commitment is to you. And she says to Sinjin, we're married now. What do you mean? And Sinjin said, I'm scared of having children. I'm scared of being tied down. I want freedom and I want to be able to pack my bags and leave. And by this point, Tanya is for the first time well and truly on the back foot. And she smiles nervously and says, but we're in a committed relationship. yes, you're both committed to Tanya. And Sinjin said, well, our future plans kind of align, but they kind of don't. And if we know this now, why are we still continuing with this relationship? So guys, this is bad, this is really bad, because you can tell Sinjin's really considering now their relationship together, if they're going to continue together, if they're going to have kids, the whole 9 yards. And I'm going to tell you at the end of the video why I think this is mainly Tanya's fault and why I think you reap what you sow. And Sinjin tells production, I don't want to stay too long in the States. I think there are better opportunities elsewhere. And if our plans don't align and we can't both be happy, that will be the end of us. So the next time we see this couple, we're with Sinjin and we discover that his brother is in hospital in intensive care and he's got a blood clot on his lung. And he's on the phone to Sinjin and he tells Sinjin he's lucky to be alive. Sinjin tells us his brother's 5 years younger than him and is his best friend. And Sinjin decides he wants to go and visit his brother back in South Africa. And he actually also lets us know something which I didn't know, and maybe I missed it. I mean, maybe you guys can tell me in comments below, but he said when he'd been in the States for just 2 weeks, his grandmother died and he was unable to travel back because of the K1 visa. And I think he doesn't want this whole thing to occur again. He wants to ensure he's there to support his brother in his hour of need. And so he meets up with Tanya for lunch. Guys, Sinjin and Tanya act as if they've got money and they sit down and have a drink, and Tanya's just back from a physiotherapist checkup. And no sooner have they sat down than Tanya sits down and sings me, 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 and she talks all about herself and the broken metatarsal in what's now becoming an all too familiar dog whistle diatribe. Can anyone actually hear anything that Tanya says? She consistently just talks about herself. And then Sinjin tells her, I finally got hold of my brother. And she said, oh yeah, forgot about that. How did it go? Well, he was really near to death, so I want to go to South Africa. And Tanya said straight away, yes, of course. But this is typical Tanya for me, guys. When she came in and sat down, yes, she's broken a bone in her foot. But do you not think that Sinjin's brother being halfway across the world in intensive care is the first conversation you would talk about, not the latest installment of your physiotherapy treatment? She's just so self-absorbed. So Sinjin says, do you want to come to South Africa? I'd love to, but I don't want to come if you're hesitant at all. There are things that we need to discuss a little bit more. You saying that you want freedom is really worrying to me. And yet again, the whole conversation swings back to what Tanya wants. No thought of, you're my husband, let's stand together, of course we're going to South Africa together. I'm here to support you. Just more chit chat about their relationship. And Tanya says, I need stability. I need to know what you want from this relationship and from our future. Tanya, it doesn't really matter, because whatever Sinjin wants is superfluous to the conversation. It's what you want that counts. It always has. And you know what? I think it always will. And Tanya tells production, I'm really nervous that Sinjin will get that feel-good energy from being surrounded by family and friends in South Africa, and he won't want to come back to the States. So let me get this straight. You're worried that he might have a good time somewhere. You're scared he might snatch a rare moment of happiness from the jaws of despair. Guys, that's Tanya's major worry. So that's everything for this episode. And so now I want to go over all of the reasons that I think Tanya has completely stressed Sinjin out during his time in the States, and why him going home and staying in South Africa I think is a really good option for him. So the first thing was, when he arrived from South Africa, Tanya was homeless and jobless. And so Tanya's grand plan was for her and Sinjin to live in a shed in the mum's backyard. Tanya didn't even bother to get it ready for Sinjin before he arrived. When he got there, it was full of trash and he had to do everything to it to make it livable. And number 2 is, as we've just discovered, Sinjin's grandmother died a couple of weeks into his trip, but about 4 weeks into him being in the States, Tanya went for a month-long holiday to Costa Rica, and I call it a holiday because she tells us she was doing a training course to do herbal medicine, but we've seen or heard nothing of this course ever since. And now, while she's not working, she's still not utilising any of the skills that she learned, so she basically reduced the amount of time they had to get to know each other from 90 days to 60 days, and spent £3,500 on the course without a moment's consideration. And number 3 is, during that time, she left Sinjin to live on his own in the shed, in the middle of nowhere, with no family, no friends, nobody for him to talk to except her mum. She didn't try and get him any friends before she went. She didn't try and introduce anybody to him. She didn't even try to get him to join any clubs or join any sports teams. She gave him nil consideration. And number 4 was the issue of the soulmates. As I mentioned earlier, she said, "You're not my soulmate, Sinjin. My first love is my soulmate." So there's two things here. One, why did you even need to say anything? It's not like he was sitting asking, "Am I your soulmate?" You just decided to give information that wasn't asked for no particular reason. It's virtually like you were showing off. Absolutely pointless. And the second thing is, once you drop a bit of information like that in somebody's ear, it will never ever be forgotten. You guys could stay together until you're 50 and Sinjin will still be considering, "Oh, but I'm not her true soulmate." So the fact that he hasn't mentioned it for the past, I don't know, year or year and a half, whatever, means nothing. He's still thinking about it. And what have you given Sinjin? You've given him a get out of jail free card, because every time he's a bit unsure about your relationship, he can always throw back in your face, "Well, I'm not even your soulmate." Tanya really is a class A clown sometimes. And then the final thing is the complete lack of support Tanya's given him since he's been in the States. So she hasn't tried to introduce him to any friends. They've only just decided to move out. She didn't try and get a job before sending for Sinjin. And whilst I know, of course, he should have come over with some savings and he should have had some money as well. The South African rand is very, very weak. Well, it is compared to the pound, so I'm assuming it's the same with the dollar. And so whatever you save there is not really going to amount to much in America. And she knew he was not going to be able to work for quite some time when he arrived in America. And even when he was going for his first interview last week, she didn't help him prep for the interview. All she pretty much said is, "Oh, good luck, babe." And last time I said this, loads of people, as per usual, got into my comments and said, "He's a grown man, he should be able to do things for himself." I always help friends, partners, whoever, if they're going for a job opportunity or a business opportunity. I will always talk over the whys and wherefores with them, knowing that any pearl of wisdom that you can give them will be useful. And also sometimes you just need to practice your skills. He may not have interviewed for 3 or 4 years. You need to practice the skills and practice promoting yourself. But Tanya never thinks of any of that. She just thinks of herself and her foot and how she's feeling. So they're my reasons for thinking that Tanya has brought everything on herself. Guys, let me know what you think in comments down below. Do you think she's culpable? As far as the Ebird's concerned, Karma's just sharpening her nails and finishing a drink. Tanya, she'll be with you shortly. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I would be very, very grateful. And thank you to everyone that's subscribed thus far. I'm now closing in on 33,000 subscribers, so help me get there. And also don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Over and out. Ciao for now.